point of note that has been shared by Dr. Maria Pisani. She's part of the team that is spearheading this initiative. It was actually launched a week ago by the government of Malta, Human Rights Directorate. It's called the New National Action Plan Against Racism and Xenophobia. The New National Action Plan Against Racism and Xenophobia. This was launched a week ago. I just wanted to bring it to your attention because there is a call for the public to give their feedback online. So you can search for it online on the website for the Human Rights Directorate, the New National Action Plan Against Racism and Xenophobia. And as a member of the public, you can give your feedback online. I guess they are having a public participation exercise, and it's important that we add our voice and our pointers as well. So, the panel discussion. So we're going to have 6 panelists at the front who will then be guided by the main moderator of the day, Mr. Livingstone. And just to highlight a bit, let's have some mic rules. We call them mic rules. We have 2 fixed mics, right? We have 2 fixed mics for the panelists, so one at each end. So for the panelists who will be seated at either end, they can utilize the fixed mics. And then we will have the other 2 freestanding mics to be shared between the panelists. And so that we are COVID compliant, we are going to require that you sanitize before and after you use the mic, right? So if it's your turn to speak, there's a sanitizer, just sanitize, use the mic, and then after you sanitize again. And the same for the other panelists, so that we make sure we are COVID compliant and sanitizing. So I hope that is clear. So again, the panelists will have an average of about 10 minutes each. 10 minutes each to articulate the pointers or matters they want to bring forth or discuss. So you have about 10 minutes, and we will try and assist you keep the time just by raising a time stamp when you have about 2 or 3 minutes to go. So let's stick to the timeline so that we are within the framework for the panel discussion. So you can also temporarily remove your mask as a panelist while you speak, and then put it back on once you've finished your portion of the discussion. And so without further ado, let me call on the panelists of the day. There's name tags indicating your relative position on the panel, so just go to the seat that corresponds to that when I call on you. And so first up is Dr. Mike Opeyemi. Dr. Mike Opeyemi is a lecturer for international relations at the Lagos State University, Nigeria, and he's also a researcher, lead researcher on African migration. So everyone, welcome Dr. Mike. Next up, we have Francois Mifsud. Francois Mifsud is a lecturer at the Department of Education, University of Malta. Let's give him a round of applause. Next up, we have Justine Lubnau. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Justine Lubnau is a project manager for Blue Door English classes for migrants. She's a project manager for Blue Door English classes for migrants here in Malta. Thank you. Next up, we have Dr. Aderemi Baderinwa. Dr. Aderemi Baderinwa. is a lecturer at MCAST, Paula, and also in charge of migrant support at the institution. We have, next up, Lauren Borge. We have Lauren Borge. Lauren Borge works with UNHCR here in Malta. We also have another panelist who will arrive shortly. She confirmed. Rosemary Kalea, who is a lecturer at MCAST Malta, lecturer of media at MCAST Malta. So these are our 6 panelists, 5 for now, ladies and gentlemen, and we welcome the time to hear from them, and they will be coordinated and guided by the moderator, Mr. Livingston. Welcome very much.
Thank you once again. Nice to see you and welcome to this second session, and this is very, very important for us. As I already discussed with you through my email, that we're going to have just a random discussion on education, and I don't know the modality in which I'm going to use, if I will go by the list I have, but I will try. I know what I'm going to do. So maybe briefly, I'm going to give you at least 2 minutes each to tell me what you do. At least 2 minutes, and then from there, I'll start from Lorraine.
Is this on? Yeah, okay. So hi everyone, my name is Lauren. I work with UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency here in Malta. We're based in Cameroon. In our team, which is the Durable Solutions team, we focus on local integration. So we try to address gaps and can be a bridge between services and government agencies and NGOs and refugee communities to facilitate integration. So one of my areas is education, so that's why I'm here today. Thank you.
Thank you. We are on the right place.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Adira Mirasaki Badeniwa, normally called Red because of my beautiful name. Officially, permanently, I'm a student mentor. It's okay. I'm a student mentor in MCAS. So when my colleague was talking about mentorship and things like that, I know a lot about that. I'll be able to give information about that, and also a part-time lecturer in 3 institutes in the same MCAS.
Brilliant. Just from there. Okay, go next.
Hello, hi, I am Dr. François Mifsud from the Faculty of Education, University of Malta. Is it not on? Okay, is this on now? Yeah. So I'm Dr. François Mifsud from the Faculty of Education, University of Malta. I am his lecturer, his teacher, and his examiner, so better if he behaves. And my focus is, I teach philosophy of education. My focus is inclusion and diversity issues, especially when it comes to integration and migration issues. I work a lot on issues when it comes to multicultural and multi-faith issues, so that's a little bit my background. It's a bit of a crazy one.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Mike Omilusi. I'm from Nigeria. I teach political science at the State University, South Western Nigeria. My research interests include electoral studies, peace and conflict, and migration. I was here in 2018 for postdoctoral studies, where I basically focus on the coping capacity and survival strategies of African irregular migrants in Malta. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Justine Lubno. I come from the UK. I've been here in Malta for 4 years. I'm a linguist and I'm a teacher, and I run Ludo English in Valletta.
Thank you. Now, I'm very interested to know about the issue of mentorship, because, you know, I ask about success stories. MCAST, you're a part-time lecturer. Congratulations, very nice. At least now I've seen there's inclusion, and I'm happy about that. So, on what you mentor students at the main college or at the
Main college in Power.
okay? But so far, how many the population you have?
In MCAST, the system in MCAST is very similar to the other higher institutions. The institution vied to have foundation colleges. Foundation college is a post-secondary school institution, or a post-secondary school project, which is a leading project, and we were being employed permanently to mentor these students in the foundation level. Our foundation levels are level 1, 2, and 3 in MCAST.
Okay, on the same note, you have a specific target group when you are mentoring? Who are the targets?
Since we are 23, we've got 23 mentors in MCAST, and we are in all the campuses. We deal with in each institute. I'm in the Institute of Community Services, and we have 6 mentors there. Each mentor has got about between 100 to 150 students, whose day-to-day academic and non-academic issues have been dealt with. Now we are very, very busy. I might say thanks to COVID or not thanks to COVID, because of the time I deal with the sport students. And the population of mine, about 150 students that are sport students, we've got about more than 60% non-Maltese in the classes. And in the real sense of it, we start from training them, helping them to access the online education. They access Teams, Zoom, depending on the type of system the lecturer, the model the lecturer is using. And also, we monitor their attendances, and we have one-to-one interaction with the students to find out if a student needs extra support. The extra supports that we have in MCAST is IEU Inclusive Education Unit and the Learning Support Unit. Like you said in your when you were enlightening us about education, because there are different levels of understanding and different levels of education. That is why part of our job is to recognize the level of the student and give the correct advice.
Thank you so much. To be honest, I want us to discuss the real issues. Okay. The real issues. Let's hit it on the head. Just to remind you, when you are speaking, you can lower your mask, it's allowed, as long as we keep the social distancing. And so, I will come back to you.
Okay,
I will come back to you. Lorraine, you good? Yes. Now, you are an educator. Educator, yes, thank you. you talk about, or I'm aware about the Coursera course at UNHCR. Can you tell us a bit about it? Because maybe we don't have full information about it.
So thank you. I myself am not uneducated by background, but I'm the focal point for education within our team. Coursera for Refugees is an online initiative that started in 2016 when employees from Coursera approached the US State Department. Coursera in itself is an online platform which offers different courses from different universities from around the world. There are, at the moment, 26,000 refugees in 119 countries that are benefiting from Coursera for Refugees. The project itself allows refugees and persons of concern to UNHCR, so in Malta that would be holders of refugee status, subsidiary protection, and asylum seekers, to access these higher education courses online for free. The universities that participate in this initiative are like from all over the world. So there's universities from the US, like Yale, Stanford, there's the Imperial College of London, so it's quite a high level. And the courses are offered for free to refugees, asylum seekers, and beneficiaries of subsidiary protection in Malta. Are courses which are 4 to 6 weeks long, or specializations which are 4 to 6 months. It's all entirely free. So this is a really good platform to advertise it, because the uptake in Malta has been quite low in the past years.
So, the enrollment in Malta, how is it?
So it's quite low. So in 2 years we've only had 4 students complete courses.
4 students.
Yep.
So it's a big challenge there.
Yes.
What can we do to increase the chances to have more students? Because that's the main issue. Now, what can we do? Like, we need to have a plan. Or what is the plan which you guys have? Like, we are targeting. Maybe we have an objective that at the end of maybe 2 years, we need to have like 50 students or 100 students at least to move that level. Yeah.
So usually for online courses, Wi-Fi is the main challenge. However, Coursera offers like an easier alternative, because once you download the course material, you can just use the app offline to follow the course. However, we understand that a lot of people still don't have access to Wi-Fi or to data for that initial download of the course. So I think that is one of the challenges.
Okay.
No, sorry, go ahead.
It's a challenge, the Wi-Fi, but I'm asking, like, what can we do? Recommendations, like solution for that issue.
So I think, like, from our end, we can do more to promote it, because, like, for example, I don't know how many people in this room actually know about the possibility to join Coursera, but I think the infrastructure, for example, in the open centers could be improved to facilitate people's access to this. I think that would be a key recommendation. But of course, we also understand that people maybe have different priorities, maybe they don't have the required level of English to pursue these courses. So there's different factors, but I think having the infrastructure for the Wi-Fi in place would really be helpful.
Yeah, okay. Dr. Francois? Apparently he's my lecturer, and I think we are going to have a lesson at the end of the day, maybe today, but that's a different story in classroom. We are now here. So, you are the director of inclusive education. What category of migrants specifically are you targeting?
Okay, so let me start by saying that it is stupid that in Malta we have open centers. Okay, we have to be clear about these things. It is unacceptable that our island still have centers where people are practically detained there. Okay? Now, saying that, we have to work with it. Okay? But it's important that ideologically we come into agreement that the fact that we have places where migrants are ghettoed there, it's both semiotically, symbolically, and also practically stupid. Okay? It's so stupid that in a pandemic situation like we have now, it's unacceptable. It's biologically unacceptable. Okay? So we cannot, okay, I'm not saying now we go out and demolish the open centers. I don't think we can do that, and maybe we should not do that. But we have to start by claiming what are the issues and the problems. It is problematic that we have these centers for two reasons. Reason number one is biologically whatever, because you are obviously enclosing people, which doesn't make sense. Okay? People need relationships, communications, and everything. But problem number two, it is stupid for the people of Malta. Because the fact that we have monuments of exclusion, okay, it will giving the wrong message to the population of Malta. Okay? It's very this is about education. It's very non-pedagogical. It's very non-educational. Okay? So my department, the Department of Inclusion and Access to Learning at the Faculty of Education, we focus on not only how to make the place more accessible, because that's easy, no? But we focus on mainly two realities. One is the reaching out. In fact, for example, you form part of a program that we said, okay, we have lots of students that are from migrant background all around the island, okay, in the schools. And we have very little number of teachers that have migrant background. So we said, we need role models. You spoke about role models. By the way, I was taking notes when you were speaking, so I have lots of thesis titles for you. Be careful. And we need role models. And we need migrants who are teachers, who are leaders. So we said, okay, we're going to do two things. One is obviously to make publicity for people who would like to join the Faculty of Education and become future teachers. The other thing, but many people out there do not know that they have the possibility of becoming teachers. Maybe we were one of them, I don't know. And sometimes we had to reach them out to another program that we have, the I Belong, and tell them, listen, you with your degrees, you can easily transfer them to the University of Malta and become a teacher. And they become a fully fledged MTL teachers. What are the hopes? The biggest hope we have, and that's why we need to make pressure to the European government, okay? We have to speak bluntly. It's important that we don't keep speaking diplomatically. The diplomatic talk is a power talk, and we need to break that if we want to enter into a deeper discussion. The problem is that you have lots of migrants in Malta who are registered in Italy or registered in other countries, usually it's in Italy. So, because they are registered in Italy, with that situation, but they live in Malta and they have been living in Malta for a long time, many of you know these people, yes, they don't have the rights to join the university as other people. And it's becoming not a university problem, because we don't have problems with the university of making space for migrants to join. It's a legal problem. So these are the actual facts that we have to deal with here.
I'm going next to ask about to Justine. You are the director of Blue Door English.
So, tell me, yes. Sorry.
Briefly, you told us that you are dealing with Blue Door English is trying to equip the migrant with English
Yes.
language. That's the basic language. Do you target a specific age group? What is the age target?
So the age group we have at the moment is mainly 18 until 26, 27, I would say. We have some who are older, we have some minors also, but that's the main age group. So for those of you who are not familiar with Blue Door English, we offer free literacy courses and English language courses for refugees, migrants and asylum seekers. We offer courses twice a week in Valletta. Pre-COVID we had 180 students. We had to close in March. We've just reopened very, very carefully. We have to limit our numbers, and we have 104 students at the moment. And we have a waiting list of 170.
What's your objective?
Our objective is to, first and foremost, provide a sense of community. So everyone who walks through our door is welcome. Everyone who walks through our door is safe. And everyone who walks through our door can tell us anything in the utmost confidence. That's the first thing we want to provide. The second thing, in providing language courses and literacy courses, is to empower our students. The first barrier you face when you go to another country is language barrier. And our students have left so much behind, have been through such traumatic journeys, and the ability to communicate is the first thing, the first barrier that they face. So we aim to provide them with a safe space to be able to learn that.
What are the main challenges, the main pressing issues which you face, especially as you try to integrate the migrant community in the main classroom?
The main barriers in the classroom?
Not specifically classroom, but entirely the main challenges you face as the Blue Door.
The main challenges that face us as an organisation are funding, or lack of, and resources. We do have a pool of volunteers at the moment. I think we're about 23 volunteers at the moment, which is the most we ever had. But it's always a struggle. Yeah.
Okay. So what can we do? What is the solution now for this? Because this is a big challenge, and I've mentioned that we don't have resources, which is the main issue in the whole country. We have the problem of resources. So what is your objective? Like, we can do this policy recommendations we can try to put in place to see that.
Yeah, okay. So, bearing in mind we have a really, really long waiting list, obviously if we could achieve more funding, we could open for longer hours, we could open extra days, we could service more people. And we could reach people all over, not just in Valletta. If we had a network, we would be able to do that. But it's as a small operation on our own Valletta, we're not able to do that.
I'll get back to you again. Rosemary just came. She is a okay. Rosemary, welcome. You were not here when we introduced you. You are a lecturer from MCAST.
Yes, I'm a lecturer of Media and Journalism Studies. The main issues that I see I've been lecturing 6 years. I've had international students, but unfortunately very few. The problem is when they reach to higher levels, like level 6, we're talking here degree level upwards, post-secondary, the difficulties that I see them facing is more financial and the time constraints because they have to work. So, and also lexical problems, like language problems that you mentioned earlier. So these three factors are always affecting my students, which I really want to help them, but sometimes, there are issues that they have, family sometimes as well, so they live far, so sometimes it's these problems that they face. And I think that we should help these students more in terms of administration. MCAS, where I teach, I believe should give scholarships to people with lower socioeconomic status, doesn't have to be international students, even any student. I think we should have this kind of schemes that help students financially, people who are exceptional, for example, and they have a lot to offer for our creative industry. In my case, it's creative industry. Doesn't have to be Maltese. So I believe that we should include these scholarships in every year. They should have some scholarships. Also, we should have courses which they are not offered only in the evening, but also in the morning or vice versa. Because some people work at night and some people work in the morning, and the fact is we treat international students as people who maybe want to learn English only. It's not the fact. There are many courses which they can do, and my colleague can tell you, we have a lot of courses, and it's from skilled to unskilled, so you can learn from welding to any kind of course, so you don't have to be a professor, you don't have to have a lot of exams. But then, yeah, sorry.
You deal with you teach media.
Yes.
You know, media is the face of the society.
Oh yeah. Quite much now. So you can see.
Media is the face of the society, you know? Right from the social media, the TV, you know? Now, how can we incorporate the issue of education geared towards, how can we use the media towards promoting, you know?
We all have the technological tools. We all have a mobile here. You know, from a mobile you can have access to online lectures. You know, right now with COVID we are doing online lectures. I'm teaching hybrid. I'm going and coming, as you can see. So we are offering lectures online. So that is a pro. That is you know, something which is positive because of COVID. But technological tools, we need to know how to use them. It's not enough to have a mobile and just access it online. It's not enough. You have to know how to use these technological tools.
I mean, yes, we have to. My question is, we are killing as a lecturer of media. And I said media is the face of the society.
Yeah.
When you are in that studio, you are preparing students to be broadcasters, right?
Broadcasters, yes. Media
Yes.
people like photographer here.
Photographers, exactly.
Yeah.
So the content, the way you speak in that mic when you are in the studio,
A lot of power.
yes,
The power.
it's determined by what you learn. You know?
Yeah, I in my classroom we teach. I try to include everything which is, you know, what's happening abroad as well, especially. We speak very open on any race and gender and whatever is going on around us, because
So
those shape the public opinion.
It does. It really shapes the direction of the society.
Uh-huh.
I mentioned that in my presentation, you are not here, that we have something called systematic
Yeah,
marginalization.
yeah,
Systematic marginalization.
Yeah.
The system has shaped the narrative of the society.
Uh-huh.
And basically, I blame the media. Do you
Okay.
agree? Do you agree?
Well, everybody blames the media, but I don't agree.
No. I mean, in every society, the media does a lot. The media does a lot because if we want to move towards this direction, it's because of the media.
Yeah, of course.
Because what you
media
read on the social
plays
media-
a huge part in the democratic system, and we need to, you know, it's the watchdog of society. But my students, for example, I've got 3 students who graduated 3 years ago. Now they are working in the industry. And when they cover stories, you know, when migrants are coming, you know, they don't call them old people anymore. We don't call them, you know, people of color anymore. We don't do that anymore. My students, I'm not saying the whole Maltese media landscape, but we are very careful on which words we're using now, because that involves, like I said, the public. You can shape and influence what you write, and what people see is what they comprehend. So if we want to have integration, it starts from the classroom itself, and when you get out of the classroom, then you have to inherit what you've learned and actually input it in your place of work.
Okay, thank you. I will come back to you. I want to go back to Dr. Mike. You are a lecturer, State University of Lagos, and a researcher. Now, you did your research here in Malta.
Yes,
You did your
yes.
research here. What was the grounds? What were you specifically targeting in your research?
I really, like I said the other time, I focus mainly on irregular migrants from Africa, and I was interrogating the survival strategies and coping capacity of these migrants in Malta. That was my focus. Education just formed a very negligent aspect of it, particularly when I was trying to examine the demographic classification of the migrant, and I discovered a few things too from that aspect.
Now that you have mentioned that you are focusing basically on irregular migrants, what are some of the pull factors, some of the factors which are pulling these people to continue, because since then there's been always, from time to time, which is, and to what extent has those who have been, integrated into the society have successfully been, put into the mainstream education?
When I sought to know what actually motivated them or propelled them to leave their countries, I discovered that almost 60% of them came in search of better jobs. That was what they actually said. And 15% came for studying purposes, another 15% for asylum and to meet their relatives here. But I later discovered too that during focus group discussions, that those who claim 15% that claim to have come for study purposes, actually they were regular migrants, those who followed the official procedure in coming to Malta. They had secure admission before coming to Malta. So they were outside even my research purpose. That means for many of them who came through the Mediterranean Sea, they did not actually come for study purposes. And I also discovered that over 80% of them only had primary school leaving certificate and secondary school certificates. And among them, we also have those who out of school, without the primary level or secondary level. 80% of them in that category. Then the remaining 20 had post-secondary school education. Now my findings, I discovered that in our discussion, 90% of those who have claimed to have lived in Malta for between 5 and 10 years, 90% of them did not bother to further their education. In fact, despite the tuition fee policy that applicable to a section of the migrants, they said they have come here to work and to make money and send back home. And the good news is that for all the migrants, all their children are benefiting. They are in school, in Malta, in primary school, primary and secondary school, benefiting too from the policy of government in terms of education. Also that when you interrogate in terms of integration, when you see that the curriculum incorporates compulsorily Maltese as a core subject, I think from primary to secondary school. But what I discovered...
Okay, from that point, the Maltese curriculum, it's constitutional. It's constitutional, right? But do we follow it? Is it implemented? Is it implemented? Like, it's constitutional that all children from the age of 6 years to around 15 or 16 years,
16.
It's compulsory to go to school. It's in the constitution.
Compulsory to go to school?
Yes, it's compulsory. But is it practical? Is it practical?
You get in trouble. And it's
Now,
by constitution, any person who lives in Malta who have kids has to send their kids to schools, even if you're a migrant, and it's free of charge.
yes.
In fact, when there was the issue of the THPN, you remember it, many of you, the THPN famous issue we had, that was one of our issues, because we were afraid that if we remove the legal status of migrants, then many migrants would be afraid of sending their kids to school or go to hospital. So no, it is by law. Yes. Until the age of 16, they have to go to school. If not, you get in trouble. But at the moment, we have a legal case about that.
Yes, thank you for that. Now, up to the age of 16, after that, what happens?
So this is one of the challenges we have as tertiary institutions. I come from the university, and so in my view, the major problem we have is not that kids are not going to school. The major problem we have is that we need migrants as leaders. My big dream is to have migrants as members of parliament. Okay? We need policymakers that are migrants. We need migrants that are teachers. Why? Because obviously when you reach and when you have a leadership position or a leadership level, you are forming the policies. You can easily reach out to the migrant community and assist them in continuing studies. That's why, for example, we started the program that you are in. But if the only way how to turning the tables, no, is when migrants from a spectator becomes an agent, from a student becomes a teacher, from a follower becomes a leader. Those are turning the tables. When a migrant has a voice, has agency, and can change things, okay? And our responsibility as educators is to be that pivotal point of turning the tables, okay?
So we are going towards the and just as you said, I can see myself being a member of parliament. Thank you for bringing that up.
Go for it. Better than the one we have. Sorry.
Now, just back to you again, because I was coming to ask you that question. Because you told me that you are preparing migrants to be leaders in Malta. Yeah. Now, what category of migrants specifically are you targeting? Is it only the migrants? Because I've mentioned that migrants, we have that international expatriates, so on and so forth. So, which is the category you are targeting?
So, the three issues we have, which I mentioned before, are bureaucratic, symbolic, and economic. My issue number one is bureaucratic. When you have, for example, 2 years ago, I had a migrant student, very good student, brilliant student. It was a huge asset to our country. After a month, she had to leave the country because she was registered in Italy. Either she left the country or she got deported. We had the money for her, we found the money for her to fund her the education in Malta. So now issue number one is bureaucratic. Please do pressure on the European Union about this stupid registration law. Okay? It's unbelievable. So any European member can travel around and study wherever they want and work wherever they want. If you're a migrant, no. If you're a migrant that registered in a place, you're practically stuck with that country. Okay? So do pressure about this stupid law. Okay? Bureaucratic, number one. Number two, economical, obviously. Although I think it is a number two issue, it's not a number one issue, because economically, you can find the money. You beg in the street, whatever, you find the money. But the other problem, which is I think it's crucial, is symbolic. Until in Malta we have open centers, we're still giving the image that migrant is a second-class citizen. Because we can do an open centers into hotels, into best places in the world. But it's symbolically, we're still saying that there is a place for migrants. And migrants should be, they are problematic. They have to pass through that system. They should go there. Okay? What is the other option? Create communities within different communities around the island. Create small communities. Why are you putting them in Harfar? No one wants to go to Harfar. Why would you go to Harfar? No? So put communities around the island, like we did, for example, in the case of other issues in Malta, other questions, like people with disabilities, for example. Now we have different communities around the island. Okay?
All the same, can we also say that now that the COVID has hit all the countries, especially the hospitality industry, we could have turned some of these hotels by the government could have stepped in.
I don't think we need hotels. I think it would be ideal small houses where people can engage with the local community, where people can really, access the local communities, becomes part of the community. For example, I don't know, remind me her name, I always forget it. Her face is fully known in Malta. She is part of us. She is an agent in our communities. She is all the time having issues with us. That's great. She's part of us. Okay? So that's how things should work. People being integrated, being part of us. That's all.
Exactly.
Keeping their identity, obviously, their culture.
Okay. I come back to you. On the issue of bullying in schools. Bullying is everywhere. First of all, do you agree that there is bullying in schools?
Yes, of course. But don't let us take it as bullying. Just take it as the behavior of teenagers.
Call a spade a spade. Call a spade a spade. Do we have a bullying in schools?
Yes,
We have, yes.
it exists, it does exist. But most of them are what I call the behavior of teenagers, differentiating even among the same color. You are more handsome than me, then I'll pull your head or something like that. Until that point, when this behavior gets to the point of damaging personality
So
or health.
should we allow that to go to that extent?
No.
Brilliant. So what can we do to cover this issue of bullying? Because, you know,
Integration, enlightenment, diversity day, and things like that. Not secluding, not sitting one in that corner, the other one in the other. Let there be a healthy mixture. And that's what integration is about. That's just it.
thank you, I'll come back to you, I know. Justine, on the same point of bullying, do you believe or agree that there's bullying in schools?
Bullying in schools? Definitely. Definitely. And it's not discouraged.
It's not discouraged. So what can we do to stop? Because you can imagine the psychological problems these students or children go through. You know, it's a stigma, bullying. That can make someone to commit suicide, bullying. So what can we do to address this issue of bullying? Especially, you know, bullying targeted to a specific, because we need a policy recommendation to address this issue of bullying once and for all, if it's possible.
Okay, I think there are two ways you can approach it. You can go from the bottom to the top, so you can start with your children, educate them, and at some point the generations move up and then everybody's educated, or you can start from the top and follow the example and have the kids look up to their leaders and see what they're doing. I think there are two ways to approach it. A lot of it comes back to what you mentioned in your presentation about curriculum. The curriculum is not inclusive, not diverse, and that desperately needs to be revised.
Okay? Back to the University of Malta. We have these issues of bullying. We have the issues, has it ever come across your attention that there is bullying in the, I mean, because you come from the Department of Education, which is very important. So is it an integral part of the curriculum?
So, as we were mentioning before, bullying has different kind of issues behind it, different realities, different histories. But if we don't cater for diversity as an occasion, diversity as an asset, okay, obviously bullying will happen. Unfortunately, if you look at the role models, think of big bully that we have at the moment, Donald Trump. He's a bully, the way he treats the journalists, women journalists, black women journalists. So obviously, our students and the people in the streets are getting this image that to be bullies, to be cool and to be a winner, okay? And which is wrong. So obviously, we have to start obviously by creating a culture of respect. I think the only way how to fight bullying is with the word respect, not tolerance. Tolerance is an awful word. We should eliminate it from any educational dictionary. Okay? It is a question of respect. Respecting each other, okay, respecting diversity, and see diversity as an occasion. So I was brought up in Malta, okay? But for me, Malta is more excited now because of the diversity we have. Before, Malta was really boring, you know? Was festa, football, and politics, no? Now at least we have traffic, we have other issues, so it's becoming more colorful. How are we taking this as an occasion?
Exactly. All right, Lorraine, I come back to you. Not on the issue of bullying, but let's discuss a bit about the challenges you face as UNHCR is a very big organization, and when you mention UNHCR, all the migrants, all the refugees look at it. So, what is the main challenge, especially here in Malta, are we facing in trying to integrate all the students? In trying to push for the government to involve students towards the mainstream of the educational system.
So earlier we were speaking about children's rights to education, and that education is compulsory in Malta between the ages of 5 and 16. However, in reality, different children do face different levels of access to education. Eventually they do get into the system, but because of bureaucratic limitations and hindrances, for example, with getting their asylum claim registered, especially when they're unaccompanied minors, for example, they would have delays with having a legal guardian or a care order issued. So I think there's a lot of challenges in terms of the access to the asylum procedure. That then obviously gives one access to documentation, which then facilitates access to all services, not just education. I think one of the main challenges at the moment is that there's a delay with accessing documentation.
So, what is the possible solution to speed up that process?
The government is looking at solutions. For example, EASO are working with Maltese authorities to speed up registration. So there are ways forward, but unfortunately, people still have to wait for a long time to register and then to get their ultimate decision on their asylum claim.
Thank you. Just as Dr. Yusuf said, that we have a problem. For example, students from Italy trying to come here to study, it becomes an issue. Is there a discussion on your table which is tailored towards pushing the government or the European Union to break this issue of member states that allows them to move from country A to country B, without any hindrance,
Yeah, so as UNHCR, we are pushing for reform of the Dublin system, the law that regulates this kind of thing that we've been discussing. At the local level, we do advocate for the government. However, then we also have offices in Strasbourg and Brussels and Geneva, which then advocate on a higher level. But yes, it is a reform of the Dublin system is something that UNHCR advocates for, especially for responsibility sharing within the European Union, the responsibility falling on the frontline states, because then, of course, it creates problems with, as we were saying, people who have the capability to progress to a certain level, but then they don't because of their status being registered in another country.
Thank you. Rosemary, back to the media. Yes. It's not your fault. Because you teach it, you should be proud of it. And also me, I'm a teacher, but I'm proud of that, So, how can we use the media? Now we are talking about the solution recommendations. Media as a way of, passing information or being an educational tool. How can we use media as an educational tool to end racism, to end discrimination, among other vices in the society?
In many ways. Today everybody is their own producer. We can share, we can like, we can dislike, whatever. So everybody can do their bit through their media, through their mobile today. We can do a lot of things. That's on a micro level. But on a macro level, I think the government has to give more information through the media. They can use any kind of media today. It's free, it's ubiquitous.
Okay, let me ask something from that point. Media in Malta, do you have autonomy?
No, it's not autonomous, no.
It's not autonomous?
No.
So which means it is system?
Yeah, there is a representative, the board of this.
So there's no autonomy. There's no autonomy in media. Whatever comes.
No, technically it's run by the government, but they always choose 2 members of parliament from each side, which is highly partisan. There is this polarization effect in Malta that is affecting every strata of the society in Malta, as you well know. So, yeah, that's the way it is. But media is not just traditional media. There is new media, which we are producers of, and there are no gatekeepers, and there are no censorship, and we can do everything from our, literally from the fingertips to the whole world. So I believe if we start using our tools properly, then we can also, it can reach up to higher levels maybe. Not instead of top down, being bottom up. But that's maybe citizen activism. But then what we can also, what I want to happen is that the government or people who are doing policies understand that of course we have our own languages in school, we teach either in Maltese or in English. But I think if someone wants to enter a course and they have other languages like French, which is recognized in the European Union, and other languages like Arabic that we actually need a lot if you want to work abroad in, I don't know, there are people in the media who work and need Arabic, and I want my students to know Arabic as well. Why don't they accept their applications instead of Maltese language or English language, let's say? You know, being French, being one of the main languages of the European Union. I don't understand why they don't do it. So some students of mine have difficulty to enter the courses because they don't have an English language qualification, which is really a pity.
Okay, back to the university again. I have, like, because it's of also interest to some people, that's one of the policies that for you to teach in Malta, you must speak Maltese. So, in that regard,
Yeah,
because of the...
So at the moment there is a policy that for you to teach in any school in Malta, obviously we're thinking of schools, primary, secondary schools, not tertiary level. For example, you can be a university professor without knowing any word of Maltese, but you cannot do that when it comes to primary or secondary education. You need to have Maltese as one of your languages. So it's understandable that when you are, you need to understand your students, and the majority of the students here are Maltese. But it doesn't mean that all the time you would need Maltese. There are schools, for example, independent schools, they are hiring teachers without having a Maltese certificate. So, till now, if you want to join the MTN course, that is to become a teacher, you would need a Maltese proficiency. What we are fighting for is this, that we are not the gatekeepers, that the Faculty of Education should not be the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper should be the school. Because it's up to the school to decide. Let's say, for example, I have a school, I'm running a school, and I say I need a French teacher. And for me it's irrelevant if the French teacher knows Maltese or not, because as long as she speaks English, obviously, and French, which is going to be her or his subject, I would be happy. So one thing we are trying to shift is making the schools themselves more gatekeepers. The only problem is that in Malta, the education system is very centralized. So practically, schools have no authority. And unfortunately, and this is my view, with the college system that was implemented 2 years ago, it became even more centralized, okay? So yes, I think it would be ideal if schools has the autonomy, like Catholic schools, for example, in Malta, Catholic schools or independent schools have this autonomy. Schools would have the autonomy to decide for themselves what they need. Because, you know, it's up to the school to say, listen, I need someone who speaks Maltese because it's a primary feature, and primary you have Maltese. And obviously Maltese is one of the, it's the national language of Malta, including with English, it's the official languages too.
The last question. From the university student leadership, do you have international student leaders?
Say it again.
Do you have international students who are leaders? Because you mentioned about you are focusing on leadership.
It is interesting. For example, what we suffer from what Rosa was saying about the endemic issue in Malta of the two-party system. Okay, I think we have the two-party system disease in Malta, which also affects all a pandemic, which is even worse than COVID in my opinion, which affects all institutions, including junior college, for example, and university. So, for example, with the elections, you see the Labour Party and the Nationalist Party vested as with other names at university and junior college. What is happening now? It's interesting. There is a group of migrants, and hope you join them, who are, I love giving homework, who are becoming more autonomous and becoming like a lobby system within the university. Because you, as a migrant, you don't have the right to vote in Malta, but you, as a university student, you have the right to vote for your representatives at university. So it can be a beginning of a change, and it's happening at the moment.
Thank you for that.
It's one of the groups that started from the foundation studies.
Yes, it's a lobby group. Do you give them support as the university? Because I believe a university should be an independent entity. But from the way you say it's
independent or not, no, let's say independent entities does not exist. We live in a political realities.
Yes.
As Aristotle says, a human being is a political animal. But universities should have certain autonomy. It's important because we need academic freedom. If I don't have academic freedom, I cannot criticize my government. So university, yes, needs that autonomy. It's important.
Thank you. Finally, Dr. Mike, in your own opinion, because I'm ending, in your own opinion, what can we do, to involve the migrant students, irrespective of wherever they come from? We have the Bangladesh, we have the Asians, we have the Africans, we have those who come from, Central Eastern European. How can we try to lobby or push, or what is the policy recommendation you can give so that we involve them or put them in the mainstream of education system in Malta?
In Malta. I think one thing is very important, and you made an important statement the other time about having the voice of the migrant being heard in parliament. I think that is very, very important because we are talking about decision-making process. If you are not part of the decision makers, it becomes very difficult for you. Even while you lobby, it might take you years, decades to achieve what you want to achieve. But if you have a voice in the parliament as representing your interests, I think that is very important. And that brings me to the point of this franchise is very important. It's not limited to Malta. In many countries, that migrants will not have that right to vote, to elect, even though they are very significant in terms of economic development in their countries of destination. But when it comes to political rights, they are right to vote for that leader in that particular country, even when they are not citizens. That is what many in migrant communities, associations, local NGOs in Europe and America, what they are pushing for, that they should have the right to exercise their franchise to vote for a leader, in as much as they are part of that community at that particular point in time. I think it's very important.
Your last word, what can you say, suggest in your own opinion concerning the whole issue in regard to what you do?
Ooh, that's a big question. What's the way forward to turn the tables? What the way forward for us at Blue Door is to make our students our allies, and to have our allies become our leaders. I think that's our objective. And there's someone in the room here who used to be a student of ours who's now a volunteer for us. So that's a fine example.
Okay.
So that's what I'd like to see more of.
Your last opinion, what can you say? No, Dr. Mike. Yes. On the whole issue, the topic of education in regard to inclusion of migrant community in Malta, like way forward, what can we do? One policy recommendation at least, in your own opinion.
I think also there should be a kind of synergy between and among all those varied migrant communities But now what I discover is that they all operate independent of each other, pursuing different goals. They can have an umbrella. I've never seen that. Even in Africa, when I focus on African migrants, they have different migrant communities from Libya, from Somalia, from Nigeria, pursuing different agenda. When you want to bring them under one umbrella, it's very, very difficult. I think it's very essential. Once we have that large community coming together under one umbrella, they constitute a significant percentage of the population at that material time. I think that is very important.
Thank you. Dr. Yusuf?
I come from the Faculty of Education, so I would say we need more migrant teachers. Because when you have a teacher in the classroom who is a migrant, who has a migrant experience and background, will definitely affect the future generation, will affect, I wouldn't say the future generation is very boring, the present generation, because children are with us, no? So definitely it can help to change the mentality, because you have a role model and you have a leader in the classroom who is a migrant. The other point which I think is important is that, as someone as Chantal Mouffe would say, the isms are connected. So you cannot face racism on its own, you cannot face sexism on its own, homophobia on its own, classism on its own. You have to face them all together. So even as a migrant communities, we have to be careful to face the other isms, to empower each other. It is wrong if you think that you want to have a voice in this country, but then, for example, you don't empower the woman to have their own voice. If you are homophobic, for example. And why? Because that doesn't empower you in this country. Not because Malta should be liberal or stuff like that, but because the isms are connected. And the isms are all connected under a patriarchal structure. So if you want to face the isms, we have to face them all, not only one of them, all the time.
Thank you. We're coming that way.
An appeal, an appeal to students out there, or maybe someone who's struggling. Resilience. I don't want any dropouts. That's what I wish. I don't want people to start and not finish. And this is irrelevant of their skin color. I just want students to start and finish. And there are many systems, like you said, that they have to support the students. We have to help them how to enter and how to finish. It's not enough to enter, but you need to finish what you start. So,
sustainability, resilience and sustainability.
Yes, sustainability throughout the journey of studying, because it can be lonely, it can be very hard. And I know, everybody knows here, when you study, it's a lonely journey. But sometimes, we can make it easier as a lecturer, as policy makers, as we can try and make it more support, psychological support, financial support, to help that student to start what they want to finish.
Thank you.
Yes, from my own point of view, I will start everything. My colleagues, the panelists have been saying beautiful words. But the bottom line is more opportunity to the foreigners, migrants, no matter where they are from. Because we cannot have leaders if the leaders are not being given opportunity to become leaders. It's very interesting. Every foreigner or migrant, I don't even know the right word to use, that is in any position. I'll just tell you from my own experience, to start as a lecturer, even in MCAS, I had 17 interviews. When my colleagues, they just go for one interview and get the same job. So I don't believe in dreams. I don't believe things can change. But the only thing I believe, or as an advice, is to be more flexible. Because we came here to offer a service, to be part of the society, to be an important part of the society, added back, we pay tax and things like that. They should be more flexible with us and take us to be experts like our colleagues. That's the only thing. Because without being given the opportunities, you can have the so-called migrants to be examples. It's only in paper. So that should change. Thanks.
Just as you said, we contribute to the economy. So you are here as an expert, and back in your country, you had caused what is called brain drain, you know. So if all the brains get out of here and go back to their countries, then it means they have to start from zero. You know? So it means there is need for more integration, more creation of opportunities, and we remove these bureaucratic, policies and stigmatization, as you say, as it has been said.
Yes.
So
the only thing I'd like to add is the fact that it's important to start early. So, as in terms of especially the situation of a lot of asylum seekers, the first few months in Malta, once they're out of detention, can still be quite idle, especially at the moment because there is less work available. So, our recommendation from me would be to start the integration process in terms of language acquisition early on. So making the best of the time that people have, especially in the open centres when at least they have accommodation and they have some kind of infrastructure in place to be able to follow things online. They cannot be delivered in person.
thank you. We will go to the Q&A session, and so I think prepare your questions, and then from there we'll see.
So, we appreciate the feedback and input of the panelists today in highlighting the various issues and proposing possible solutions. And so we come to a very important section of the program where we have a Q&A session. So this is the session for you as attendees and participants in the program to bring forth your points, your pointers, some things that you felt were left out, or something you want to highlight. So just a few rules of thumb. The statements that you bring forth or the questions, right? Just be as precise and concise as possible, right? So don't make it a whole paragraph, right? Try and zero it in on the issue you want to highlight or raise. That will help a lot. And then, in order that we minimize the contact with the mics, right? In order that we minimize so that there is not a lot of hands on the mic, we are going to have two people from the facilitation team who will then walk over to you and hold the mic to so that you can speak, right? So they will hold the mic to you so that you can speak and raise your issue. So the format we will adopt is we will take about 3-4 questions at a time, right? So you will just raise your hand and the person will walk over to you, and we will pick 3-4 questions at a time and then give the panelists a chance to respond, right? So 2-3 questions at a time so that we give the panelists a chance to respond. And like I said, let's make it precise and concise. And for the panelists, kindly take about a minute or two to respond to the issues that are raised so that again we move a bit faster. So we will basically jump right in, and I think I'll hand over the mic to the persons who will be calling out to you. So if you have an issue, and I think we have a lot of time. We have about 40 minutes for this session, so we should be able to cover everyone adequately. And so just raise your hand and they will come to you, and we'll pick 3 and 4 at a time. Sorry, let's go with you.
Mr. Adam.
Sorry.
Sorry?
If you don't mind, you can, as you direct your question, you can at least mention whom your question is being directed so that at least it will be very easy for me to know.
I'm Mr. Adam Bismillah of Sudanese community. Thank you very much for your sessions, and I think as a community, we can raise a number of points of what you mentioned of your sessions. And also, I need just to make a brief recommendation of some point mentioned by the panelists. And I agree with Dr. Francois about the assembly of centers, and I think this is a very big challenge. For us as a community, the big challenge of it is to take the table, it is education. Education will be a very, very tough issue for that. And we even contacted with the Awas and the stakeholders involved, and we are very happy that is now to give our recommendations. And also we have a number of tools we're talking about, and we hope that this come out as soon as possible for us. Our community, unfortunately, we are facing three categories. There we have it: literacy, semi-literacy, and intermediate. Also, we have a number of qualification people. They are ready to be participate in any levels, even from master degree. They can go ahead on that. And I believe that we have a very part.
Sorry, what's the question?
No, I don't have a question. I have just a recommendation because I'm following the panelists and I need just to make an excellent suggestion. Then,
just on that, let's first pick questions and then we come back to the recommendation. I will give you a chance for that. Let's first pick questions and then I'll come back to you on the. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's a fair format that we pick the questions first and then we'll have a sections for those who maybe have some recommendations. So.
Hello, I'm Handali from MGRM, Malta Gay Rights Movement. So I want to say that information and access to information is very crucial in this time, especially being like, for example, a student of MCAST of NCA, and having to pass 1 year to know that we need, for example, a letter of exemption, an exemption letter. It's very kind of weird to start a course and you don't know whether you will pay or you don't, but you are sure that you don't pay, but no one will tell you an information about this. More than this, Mrs. Rosemary, she asked not to drop. How not to drop when you have to spend 5 years in Malta to get a stipend? And you cannot have a stipend even if you are a refugee or asylum seeker. You come here alone and you are surviving with 800 euro of rent and more expenses on every day, having a full-time course of 8 hours a day, and then you have only the weekend to work with. So how to pay all these expenses as well. Also, this issues, it's not one-way issue, it's not the government issue or the institutions issue. Also, the problem of migrants community here. When we speak about schools, primary schools, female mutation that is happening and stopping students from going to school. When we speak about arranged marriage to 15 and 14 years old girls in the communities, and this is happening here in Malta, and they are asking for help. These are issues that the migrant communities have to face. When we speak about homophobia within our communities and people are getting scared and they don't have safe spaces to go to, even in our educational systems. Thank you.
Thank you. We can try to be precise. You can also say my question is directed to Lauren, for example, so that she can prepare. And then you can also say my question is general, and then we will pass it around. So, yes. We will take this one and one more.
Thank you very much. I'm Navi Dubai. My question is directed to Lauren for the UNHCR. I want to ask, what effort is the UNHCR doing to inform the migrant community about the courses that are held online?
All right. if we have space for one more. You can ask anything, there's no wrong question.
Good afternoon, everyone. Employment-wise, I would like to know, we were talking about how to turn the table, how to become a follower to a good leader. I would like to raise a question on how we're going to turn the table if, for example, they are always prioritizing EU citizens over third country nationals.
So, moments for the panelists to respond to those.
Rosemary? Okay. Thank you.
My answer starts with a question to you, sir. You are in ICA in Malta. Which level? Six. Okay, that's different. I thought as much. That is the reason why you don't have those informations, because as also a student mentor, we provide a video and a PowerPoint illustrating the kind of services MCAS has for non-multi students and multi students, because most of those services, like the exemption letter, it is the duty of the registrar office to have informed you during the application. And if I have your information after this conference, I can forward it to you to even share with other non-multis that can be in need of it. Of course, we have YouTube videos for multis to get the stipends and things like that, and there are some for non-multi students too. Okay?
Just to top up on him, I want to top up and say something.
Yes.
I like hitting something head on. Call a spade a spade. He is a student at MCAST, and he doesn't have that information. What about those who don't have that access? You see, there's a problem somewhere, which means we need to do something to have more information flowing to get to everyone. We have to accept these things. Or what do you think?
It's true. It's true.
Yes.
Because as of now, the mentoring program is for the foundation college, or for the foundation level 1, level 2, and 3. And from level 3 above, you have the coordinators, who are part of the system too. But a coordinator is a part-time job, and it's what it is. Though, just a minute, no. To be sincere with you, in the handbook, which came out very fast, it came out last week, that was, I suppose, okay, we are in Malta, so it's not in the thing.
No, but we don't have to say we have to do something about these things. We have to face it.
Yes, the informations are in the handbook, and some of them are on the website of the institution.
All right, thank you. So do you have the translated documents of those handbooks?
It's in English.
But at least you can do something to do translation also to different languages.
I'm just going to answer him why he doesn't have a stipend. Listen to me carefully. You don't have a stipend because you don't vote. That's the reason. When in Malta in the late 90s there was an issue of stipend, the government almost fell, actually ended up falling. Okay? So unfortunately, we still, lots of rights or lots of assistance is being prioritized to people who vote. Not even to European Union members, to people who vote, because of our two-party disease that we have. So, one thing which is very important is for us to show and support our students and to show how big of an asset they are to this country. We need our students, we need to support them. Ironically, the stipend is there to support those who are more in need, not to support a student driving a BMW, okay? So that is the real reason. Number two, you mentioned about the fear. you have to be responsible as migrant community to assist your members. Yes, I've met situations where members of LGBTQI who are afraid from their own community. It's unacceptable. You are responsible. You have to do something about this, because the first people who are going to face are you, because you're members of their community. They are your people, for heaven's sake. So support each other in that. Malta is ready to support them. I'm pretty sure there are lots of MGRM and lots of other movements. But as a migrant community, I know, because I lived myself as a migrant in Canada. If you are living as a migrant, you are obviously, you seek your people, but at the same time you are afraid from your people. That is disgusting. That is something that we have to eliminate. Okay? People in Malta should be free to express their identity. And you as a migrant community also has responsibility there. As we have also as Maltese citizens. I'm not saying we do have that.
So just to answer that question about Coursera, the way we advertised it was on social media, because that's where we get more following than on our website, more traffic. And we also shared it with refugee-led organizations and community groups and within our networks. But if you'd like more information, you can just go on our Facebook page. It's posted over there, and there's my email address, so you can contact me and share it with other people who you think might be interested. I hope that answers your question.
Yes. Sorry, if I may interject on that question. You said you advertised it on social media, and which is great. There's a big reach. But have you already identified issues with data? The people you are targeting might not have data or Wi-Fi and this and that. What other non-platform methods have you employed or considered employing? For example, you could have attempted to reach out to the various migrant communities, right? The Pakistani community, the Indian community, the Asian community, the Nigerian association, the Ghanaian association, because they all have a presence on social media as well. And if you're able to reach them, then they have like their WhatsApp groups and this, and the information might reach more people that way, rather than just posting on the main page for UNHCR, for example, which many people might not access in the end. Or have people actually go out to Alpha with that information, maybe translators and hand, so that it reaches the people it's intended for. Is there any mechanism like that? Maybe just to
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have shared this information with refugee-led organizations and migrant communities. So we have good ties with several organizations, and we share it with them, and then we rely on them to share it within the wider community. We also conduct outreach in open centers where we provide information to the residents. Because of COVID, it has slowed down significantly because of issues with social distancing and so on. But we have helplines established, so people can call us, I think it's a couple of hours for each language a week. And there's interpreters available on that helpline for French, Arabic, Bangla, Tigrinya, and Somali, and English and Maltese. So we are trying to, even though we have less of a physical presence in the centres, we are still trying to be available to persons of concern, to UNHCR, and then there's email, messages on Facebook, but the phone is usually the best option for most people.
There was a question of priority to EU citizens when it comes to employment. Yes, there was a question from behind there that there is, when it comes to job opportunities, the priority goes only to those who have EU citizenship.
Unfortunately, the present government started coming into power with the call for meritocracy. And this is the issue. Meritocracy should not be based on what's your citizenship or what's your whatever, but on your skills. So the diversion should be focusing on meritocracy and on skills, not focusing on your piece of paper that say from which country you come. If we don't do that, it becomes like we are shooting on ourselves. Practically, it's a suicide in our country, because then you have people who are in positions who should not be there, and maybe others who are not in these positions who should be there. Like for example, for me it's unacceptable that a gynecologist is a sweeper in the streets of Malta, not because he's a sweeper doing a great job, but because we need more doctors, we need more, so we need to facilitate the system through which their degrees, their diplomas, whatever, are easily recognized. We have moved a lot there. The university has its own system, for example. There are different institutions who are immediately, and we are trying to work also with places where, for example, if you are running away from your country, we cannot get in contact with your country to get your degrees and diplomas and certification. So now we created a system where we kind of examine you, and from that exam we recognize your previous educational background. And the university is working on that direction, for example. But I think it should not be only the university, other institutions should do that.
Thank you. I think we will take more questions. I'll start with this gentleman.
Thank you very much. My name is Ahmed Chendish from Libya. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Masoud for what he said and support that. I hope some of your idea could be implemented. Secondly, last year I was asked by the integration unit, I've been member of the integration forum in Malta for the last 6 years. And last year, the integration unit of MCAS asked us to help with the problem of Libyan students who are there and having, as Dr. Masoud, problem of integration with their own colleagues from their own country and with Maltese students. And I think the integration unit at MCAS, they are doing a lot in this role. I don't know about the university, which is an integration unit at the university, they could do a lot. Integration, it is a win-win relationship. I mean, we are here as a guest, so we have to do our utmost to help to be integrated, to be accepted. But also, unfortunately, the society have to come towards us. I mean, how can, and this is the role of media. I mean, I've been living in Slima for the last 13 years. You don't feel in Slima because it is a multicultural city. But in other, like, let's say, Zaytun or Marsa Scala or Marsa Shlok, the situation is different. Where the situation there, they're from one side, they want the immigrant to do a lot of jobs. From the other side, they don't want you to stay here. From at least the older generation, you can accept what they have, their way of thinking. But the media have to do its role, and the educational institution can do also a lot of help in this direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take this one.
Thank you very much. My question will be to Mr. Musa of the University of Malta. I, as a person, I am in Malta since 2014. I encounter so many challenges in terms of to go to school, to go for education, because I have checked so many institutions where I can at least have studies. First, I start with the employment enhancing, that is to at least have the skilled studies for my work. And what they were requiring was, if I don't have a refugee status or the Maltese ID, I cannot do the course. And then I forgo it, I go for the work. And then later, the following year, I tried MCAS for studies, and they also give me the same requirements that I should have Maltese ID for me to study in MCAS. And that year also passed. And the following year again, I tried with the University of Malta, where I went and they sent me back to their higher education, where I was given information to do an evaluation of my certificates, and which I did. my certificates were evaluated, and then later on, I don't know which step I should take again. I went back to the university to check if there is any enrollment. They told me I have to do the IELTS studies, and then after then I do the IELTS. Yes, and from there then I can be able to be admitted in the university as an international student. And I'm in Malta and I have a subsidiary protection. Can you please tell me, those refugees who are in Malta and they have a protection, are they having the right to education here? And if they have the right to education, what are the procedures they should take to get these rights? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My question goes to Dr. Mike. We have been trying for the past years an attempt to curb the irregular migration, especially the one coming from countries which are not war-torn. And my question as an educator and also a kind of, I know the work that you're doing in Nigeria. So I would like to know, do you have a plan maybe to include into the curricula of in education in Nigeria or in Africa in general, a system whereby children from young age can access an information about all the danger of irregular migration, so that when they grow up, they don't focus more about the economic aspect of their life. Apparently, migration is a human right, so I'm insisting about on countries which are not taught well on the economic migrants. So a curricula in the African school where we teach to children from primary school what is wrong, why they shouldn't just go one day and try to reach people.
Thank you.
My name is Christina Dimic, and originally from Serbia. I didn't hear till now that word. I want to ask a simple question. Why scholarship for non-EU countries is so high? Like if it's for EU citizen, 1,000 euro, but for non-EU citizen it's 7,000. Same knowledge, same year. So that's one question, because I think it's pure discrimination. You just decide who is in EU or non-EU, and then you put a price for same knowledge. And who is the person or institution where people who came here educated, like me, with who we can speak about our rights or what we can do. When I came here, I needed 6 months, almost more than 6 months, to do recognition of my master's degree. Also, this is the reason why I didn't study more, because it's very expensive. So, like our representative here said to us, that sometimes we come here and we don't know with who we can speak or how we can come to informations. So I think that it's a failure of this government. They don't care about education and about education, people who are educated. I must say just this shortly. I'm here 3 years. I started like a waitress, then in laundry, on reception. Sorry, I'm very emotional. But today I'm standing here and I'm a teacher in your school. It was very, very difficult way for me.
Okay,
And of course, kids suffer, as you were saying, and psychologically that's why I'm crying now. Because it's a very strong battle. So today I am teacher in the School of Music. My wish was to integrate. By the nature, I love people, but who care? When I came here, they told me that my CV is too long. Sorry, because I'm not from non-EU country. I couldn't work what I love, what is my passion. And I'm one excellent teacher. Thank you.
Thank you. We will give the panelists a moment to respond.
right. So, alhamdulillah.
And also the journey. So the problems we mentioned here earlier, we were reflected in what you were saying. You know, we can't do integration if you don't have unison in the classroom. You can't have people coming if they don't have support financially. You cannot do you cannot enter education if your certificates are not recognized. So these are problems that we know they are there. That's why we are here today, to try to turn these tables. But we have to look at the positive things, that we are here. We are doing these things now to start a conversation, at least, with the policymakers. And the fact that we have it starting in the integration office, we have officers in that AMCAS in the university. Okay, it's gradual, but it started. We are starting. So if you maybe make your voice heard more here, also outside, when we're outside here tomorrow, maybe these will function better or faster, let's say faster, because we understand her very well. We see this all the time. That's why I said I don't want any more dropouts, because it hurts to see someone dropping, you know, after all the hassle you go through to enter. You understand what I mean? So that is what we feel, but we need change also from above. We cannot do everything by ourselves. But yes, psychological help, we have a lot of places where you can go, and not only in schools. You know, you can find even outside. There are many places where you can get help. Even we lecturers sometimes need to vent out our problems, you know. I need to go and shout, you know. So we do find these places. They are free, okay? They are free. These places are free for everybody. So if you would like, maybe then later, maybe we can give them also somewhere where to go. That's okay. But financial problem, the stipend problem that he mentioned, it's bureaucracy, it's all bureaucratic. So we don't want that this will hurdle you to find, you know, this kind is more difficult to continue. This is something that I don't really want to see anymore. I don't want students to stop studying because of these things.
I think there was the first question was that who gives me the right to education? The answer is very simple. Your birth gives you the right to education. No one has the right to give you the right to education, because that's yours already, and it's yours. You have it. The only problem is the institutions are there to facilitate that right, and sometimes we don't do a good job there. Let's say it, no? So the right is yours from your birth. Right for education, it's a human right. It's there written black on white, okay? So when it comes to what kind of accessibility I have, there are a lot of arrangements at the moment happening. So for example, one of them is see that maybe you can fall under maturity clause. The University of Malta is a national university, so that means we try to create a system where everyone in a way is accessible to the university. There is accessibility to the university. So maturity clause, and also at MCAS, which means that if you are over 23, you know, you can apply. Obviously, then you pass to an interview, and we might ask for some proficiency. Obviously, when it comes to, like, if you want to be in education, you need, education is through language, okay? So obviously, proficiency in English, it's a must. Proficiency in Maltese, till now, it is a must, but we tried to lower as much the level to make it just the minimum. So even there. Someone else said, the lady spoke about where to go. I would say, seeing this bureaucratic situation we have, go directly into the institution that you want to work for, okay? Like, for example, in your case, if you're interested of having a permanent warrant as a teacher, speak to us as a faculty of education, okay? If you have already a teaching degree, we can maybe work with that, okay? So, and we are lucky that the Dean of the Faculty of Education, he made it one of his priorities, migration integration. So we are working a lot in that area. So there are lots of people who are willing to help and assist in that. I want to be very careful with the word help, because I hate it sometimes. It's your right, okay? We're not doing an act of charity. We need you. We need good teachers. If you are a good teacher, please come, knock on our doors, try to do something, because we need your proficiency, okay? Professionality, sorry. So come to the faculty, speak with us, Dean and everything. If you want, later on, we can even have a chat about your situation. I think you work, for example, with music, you said, no?
Yeah.
So you fall under the principal in charge of arts and music, no? Who is an excellent guy, no? He is very much into integration and stuff like that, so that would be great. At the moment in Malta, we need lots of teachers. We're lacking teachers, especially in some areas. The only area which we don't lack teacher, it doesn't practically affect you. It's Maltese. But the rest, we need lots of teachers. We're lacking teachers. Just keep in mind that around 15, 20 years ago, Malta was thinking of closing schools because the population was going down. Thanks to migrants, now, not only we're closing schools, we're upgrading schools and we're opening new schools. We don't have enough schools, okay? So we need, and we definitely don't have enough teachers. And how many of you are you at the MTL this year?
I think 28.
How many?
28.
No, the whole MTL, 100 something, I think. So those 100 something, in 2 years' time, they have to replace, I don't know, 200 teachers. Okay, so we do need teachers. But unfortunately, the system makes it difficult to get them. Okay, but please come and talk to us. Okay, in Malta, unfortunately, we are Mediterranean. We love to see faces, so you have to knock on our doors. We are like that. Okay, we're not like the British, where you can send a nice email and you receive an acknowledgement. No, we need the people.
Just with regard to that, the gentleman who said he has gone to several schools and got the response that he needs to have a status in order to even start. And he said he has subsidiary protection, and the question was, if you have subsidiary protection, does that grant you a right? What's the straight answer to that?
So it depends where you are registered. Usually subsidiary protection, it depends where you are registered. If you are registered in Malta, rights you have them all practically. The problem, if you're not registered in Malta, that's a headache. But don't give up, because things are changing. Okay, even the University of Malta, we do have at the moment students who are not registered in Malta. Now, don't ask me how and why, whatever, I don't know, but we do. Okay, so if you're not registered in Malta, please don't give up. It doesn't mean that your future is bleak.
Are you registered in Malta?
Yes, I'm registered in Malta.
So you have all the rights. Maybe the only problem would be stipend, but that EVE is up to different faculty. For example, you are MTL, you have a stipend for sure. He's a rich person, you can see.
If that is the understanding, how can you explain that he's gone to 3-4 schools and he's told you cannot?
I don't know the case. I have to see the case.
Well, that one is case by case, and you know.
Pardon?
I mean, case. It's individual case. It needs to be.
It is, but there are policies. Obviously, the university at the moment is working on a new policy for integration at university students.
Okay, so we go to the next.
Sorry, just a moment.
What happened? Maybe I went to the wrong channel. Because when I go to the University of Malta, they sent me to the International Student Union. And there I was not able to get the information that I really need.
Yeah.
They just gave me a book and they tell me go and check only that.
When was? Can I ask you when was that?
That was in the last October. From there, they have to send me.
Yes. So in that case, yeah. For example, talk with the registrars. The registry.
I tried all my utmost best to see the registrar, but what they do it is because of my color. I do not need to explain myself. When I go to university, first they have to send me to the international students because of my color. They don't need to know who am I or what do I need to be now. So they just send me straight to international students.
Because international students are responsible for, obviously, students who are international.
Students who are not known, who are not known, so who are not known.
Yeah.
So this is why I said I'm going to the wrong place. And this is not helping a lot of people.
Sure.
I just wanted to tell you that you can visit the office of GRS in Malta. Then if they cannot help you, then your phone is another one. Maybe we can discuss that later.
That's what I think. Okay. Let's answer that and then we'll take one more question, one or two, and then I'll give the gentleman the statement.
There was one question which was directed to him, just to answer, and then we only take strictly one question.
One question, and the gentleman will make the final address, the pointers he had, and then for the interest of time.
Yeah, regarding what the African countries can do to stem the trend of this afflux of migrants from that continent to Europe in particular, I think it's very important, like you have said, that if such can be incorporated into the school curriculum, like many African countries, they did that in like a decade ago in respect of conflict. When conflict was so prevalent, in fact, intercommunal conflicts, not even on a larger scale, but individual communities. The peace and conflict studies was introduced into the curriculum, at least in the post-secondary school. They are now trying to bring it down to secondary school and primary school, such that people can know the effects and the implications of engaging in conflict and the advantages of living in peace. The same thing can be adopted in terms of irregular migration. For now, what we are having is a kind of a collaboration between the civil society organizations in Africa and government. There are government agencies in charge of irregular migration, but what they have been doing have been so limited to public enlightenment, informal interface with people, encouraging them. And I want to point out that the issue of voluntary assisted return can also be revisited. In some instances, I glanced that the European Union some years back made provision for a certain amount of money for those who might be willing to return back to their countries of origin. I think that can be utilized now. But beyond that, while I was writing my paper in early this year, I noted as part of my recommendations that the scrambling for greener pastures in Europe will be drastically reduced if anti-poverty policies can be entrenched in Africa. I think that is the baseline. If you don't tackle that, the stem cannot reduce. In that April, even amidst the coronavirus pandemic ravaging the whole world, and when every country was trying to close its border against its spread, many Africans are still finding their way to Libya to cross to Europe. In fact, at a point in time, a German non-governmental organization, CI, rescued at a point 150 Africans, 150, trying to cross up the Libyan coast in April 23rd this year. So they are not limited by circumstances, by coronavirus pandemic, because of the poverty, the socioeconomic, the diversity in socioeconomic status that we have in Africa. We have, for instance, in Nigeria, over 35 million are unemployed. 35 million. I can match 10 European countries that are not up to that population. 10 European countries. So if you have that in the country, it's like sitting on a keg of gunpowder that may explode anytime. And in such circumstances, people are ready to move out of the country. They are paying high prices to live, even as we speak. So if you go to school, if it is introduced in the curriculum, they teach you the risk involved in migration, and you get out of school, no employment for you, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. You might not, you will be tempted to migrate at whatever cost.
Okay.
Thank you.
Last question, please.
Yes, I'll take maybe one or two strictly.
My question about the media. I think the media in Malta as a community when they built integration, the media is come to it. This area. Because I don't know how, as a lecturer, you have foreigner with you with studies. How you feel when we see the media talk about the migrant in a bad way?
Okay, last one. And I mean, the conversation does not end here. You have every platform to forward your queries to the team and the unit, and we'll continue.
My name is Davis Malta, student, University of Malta. My question goes to either Doreen or David. Yeah. While I want to appreciate the fact that immigrants is a diverse group, so those who are coming in, it's not discriminating. We have those who come for education, and we have the illiterate group. I'm sorry to say that. So now, while we are focusing on giving solutions to those who with abilities to learn, what is maybe the state doing, or what are the plans for these who cannot study, who cannot learn? Are they going to be closed if the detention comes forever? Because I think the quicker we get them into the society, maybe give them the informal skills, the better even to the economy. So what are there plans to get them into the society?
Thank you. I think we will close with those two, and then we will give the gentleman just to make a statement as we close finally. A chance to respond to the two.
To respond to the lady, yes, I believe there is much more to do on how migrants are represented in the media. And this is not just in Malta, but globally. So there is always this rhetoric that they are this invisible enemy, you know, that we have to. It's coming really from the politicians as well. And it's also, you know, this is becoming this. We had a lot of populism during the pandemic, which is, we call it, it's a problem now. It increased. Populism is increasing because of the far right parties in nearly all Europe now, but it's also in America, it's everywhere. So the media is owned by people who have interest in business. So it's not just political, it's also a business. So they don't see it, you know, spicy to talk about migrants. There's nothing, you know, gossipy about migration. There is nothing, you know, it's only bad news sometimes. So the problem is that we do not have representatives within the media. We see it in the newsrooms as well. There is a predominant of white people, which are middle class. There is no representative of ethnic minorities. Therefore, it does not reflect in what we see and what we watch, what we read. Sorry. So that is what we're trying to change from our course. You know, we try to integrate maybe more foreigners to our courses. So at least we have somebody who can be seen as a role model for other people. And that is the difficulty that we are encountering here, because it doesn't start from you employ people, it starts from how you want to train those people to be employable, to be able to represent others and be seen also on the screens that we watch and the things that we read.
Thank you. Does that answer both, or yes? Mike.
So thanks. So yeah, I mean, I think today we focus during the panel perhaps more on higher and formal education, but there are different vocational training opportunities and focus on organizations that offer informal or non-formal education support. In terms of plans going forward, we as UNHCR, we do not offer support services directly. Our operation here is more advocacy based. However, I am aware that Jobs Plus, the state employment agency, is working on offering such training. So I think this could be a recommendation perhaps for conference on employment training that's coming up, right? To focus more as well on the vocational aspect of education rather than the formal and higher tertiary levels of education, because it's equally important, and I think in a lot of cases more of a priority for migrants coming to Malta rather than pursuing higher levels of education, at least with the people that we work with.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
I'm Erica from the Intercultural and Anti-Racism Unit. I just want to point out that it's really good if you come and you flag certain issues also to us, especially certain areas where we can try to intervene, and then obviously there's also things we can and cannot do, of course. For example, I can give you an example. St. Vincent de Paul have a lot of foreign carers over there. They recognize the need that a lot of their carers needed to learn Maltese to help with the patients. They reached out to us, and in fact we went purposely over there with MCAS, because the program for stage 1 is with MCAS, to do lessons over there. If they wouldn't have reached out to us, from our side we wouldn't have known the need. Okay, so reach out to us, let us know what is going on the field. Same thing, I mean, we are ready even with the centers. If we have access to enter the centers, we would be happy to go in and do the courses over there. So we're aware of this, and we're obviously trying to work on it. Access to centers is a bit difficult. But in general, let us know and reach out. I mean, I'm sure it's also the same for UNHCR, no? Let us know what is happening, and then from there we can see how to work out. That's it.
And just for everyone's information, Erica Borge is the projects coordinator at the Intercultural and Racism Unit of the Human Rights Directorate of the Government of Malta, for whom we are partnering on this project. So I'll just give a few moments and kindly be very precise for the statements.
Thank you very much, brothers and sisters. I'm going to give it just an experience for us as a community, because we have really a huge impact, but we are going to bring it on tearing the table. The table for us now, for education, to apply for employment, and to do all these things now. We are really requesting that is funding. Funding, it means for us, it is not a kind of cash. This is even with the teacher, and I think now we are here now. I'm going to appreciate a lot Blue Doors for what they are doing for us for this last 5 years, and really doing a very high level. Even UNHCR, they are involved for supporting our communities. And 2019, we have a vast level of English and Maltese graduated by the President, Mrs. Correro, and this is very appreciated, and which is supported by Blue Doors and UNHCR. And now, regarding the funding that is, we are talking, because we are planning for education level, and as you said, because we are, our community, we have a number of skills. It is not only qualification. Qualification till now, even we have a level of master's degree on maths. We're writing in Malta right now, and he's ready to be involved. I think we are starting already with the education college, and I think that we have to go on other. And we have another people that is involved. And I believe that is also we are our members, and working for them hardly to get for them a job, and we are very successful. I'm not going to say that in Maltese employers and private sectors, and even there are other levels, they are involved and they are very successful. Yes, they have the problem of the language communication, but we are so proud that it's our community members. They are working everywhere in Malta right now, and you know that the Sudanese, recently they are arriving in 2018 now, the big numbers, and we are working with them very closely, and now we are even with the give us permission to make a kind of awareness and education program for the open centers. And I say it again, I agree with Dr. Masood. I think that the open centers is not a right place. As long as they are paying for them for 6 months or 1 year, the government or AWAS, they can give it to them back and to go outside to rent and to close the open center. That is a very simple way, and we give this proposal, and I think they have a way that is to go further on it, and I hope that is to be in the next step, but working on that, and I believe that is what is point I say. And Loreen mentioned that is about application of asylum seeker. It is really a very big issue. We understand that the office is working very hard, and they have a big numbers of applicants for the asylum seekers, but still it is pushing us or our members for really a very bad way. Now we are going to declare right now, we say that we have over 300 persons there in the gate because they are needed to flee out of Malta because their application they are delayed. More than 1 year, some of them are more than 1.5 years. But still, we understand that. But we hope that these things have to be taken because we need our community to be contributing of the economy of the country because we have skills on a different type of skills, mechanic, electronic, electricity, plumbers. We have a different and a level of education. MBA of economy, accounting, and whatsoever, physics, we have a levels, and we hope that is now this can go further for another. Thank you very much for
Thank you very much. As you can see, the conversation is very dynamic and extensive as well. We cannot exhaust all of it in the little time that we have. And so we have to bring to a close the formal discussion today, but the conversation continues. Turning the Tables does have an official Facebook page and an email address that is on that page, so if there's any other matter arising or another point you needed to pass, please share it on that platform, because we do have on board a lead researcher for the project who is listening keenly and taking in all the points and pointers. They are a doctor and also a lecturer at the University of Malta, and so we want to live up to that name. There's a lot of conversation that has happened on these issues, but we want to try and turn the tables by pushing it to the highest level it can be, right? So that we live up to that name. So feel free to contribute. And so I will in front of you we do have some evaluation forms. Take a moment, a minute or two to fill your feedback. We value and appreciate your feedback so that we can improve the experience even for the other topics. And as you do that, then we will ask you to just carry your evaluation form and place it on the facilitator's table as you head out for lunch. So we're going to follow the same process for lunch, where we will go two tables at a time, and as the good books tell us, and the first shall become last. So again, we will start in a different order, right? So let me just allow Regine to say something before we get to the lunch.
Thank you very much. I wanted to say something that was pointed out to me by Erika. As you can see the panel, I'm sure that it came to me naturally because I am a woman and I am black. So I tried to make a balance when I was reaching out for panelists. As you can see, we have 3 women and we have 3 men. Men should have been 4, unfortunately. Sorry?
Very much from my
Thank you. And yeah. So I appreciate that a lot, and I encourage all of us to continue in that way because that's how it should be. And thank you, Erika, for pointing it out, and that's what I want.